my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well out there and painting wonderful artworks as well, and keeping up the painting every week. In this painting tutorial I'm going to paint a beautiful sunset on a beach. I haven't done one in a while. I'd like to do one. I have a nice photograph here. I'm going to show you. What do you think about this? A nice simple sunset. Now they look quite kind of bluey, but it's not that kind of a colour. It just looks that colour on camera. A nice sunset with some water coming in on the sand. So I'm going to paint that for you this week. So if you're having trouble with sunsets and colours, this is the tutorial for you. I'll be simplifying it, make it simple, but again creating a very eye-catching painting. So we'll crack on and have a bit of fun with this. I'm using a 400 by 400 canvas or 40 by 40 canvas square. If you don't have a square canvas, a normal 16 by 12 or 20 by 16 upright will do just as well. This photograph that I have, I cropped it to make it square, same as the canvas. It was more long, so it came down to kind of here. So it was much kind of a longer photograph, a landscape upright. So I just cropped it slightly to make a square. That's all I did. That's what you can do. It's handy. So, you know, move them. You can crop them in and move them around just to get it right. So let's go and have a bit of fun with this. I put some colour on my palette, and let's have a bit of fun with this painting. Don't go anywhere. This will be a nice one. Thank you so much for your support, and do like and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get it growing. Grow the channel. A lot of people are missing out. I'll be right back. Here we go, my friends. This is it. I put masking tape across my canvas and I did a quick sketch, and there's a reference photograph. Isn't that lovely? Nice simple colours. A limited palette, not too many colours. I have titanium white, Naples yellow, burnt sienna, burnt umber, lamp black, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, phthalo blue and magenta. The first thing I'm going to do is give the entire sky a coat of linseed oil. Okay, bit of tissue, some linseed oil. Let's give this a quick coat, just a very quick loose coat. This will make the paint nice and slippery, and it will help with the blending as well. It will stop the paints kind of soaking through the canvas very quickly, allowing us to blend our colours very nicely together. Now, you just kind of look at it with the light hitting it. You can see if you've missed a spot, and you can just see I have a nice thin layer of oil on that now. Perfect. And you can also use liquid clear if you like. I'm going to take a long brush, flat brush, a big flat brush. These are lovely and soft, these brushes. They're soft synthetic. See that? They're not bristle. And let's start the sky. Come on now, let's get into this. I'm going to take my little pencil, and what I'm going to do is just, to make life easier, I think we should just sketch roughly where that big cloud is up on top. Just look, a very rough general area. And we have one coming down like this, and that's probably all. So I can just bring my blue in around all of that now, okay? Let's go. I'm just going to dampen my brush, dry it on some tissue, just so it's kind of moist, you know what I mean? Let's go right into some phthalo blue. Lots of titanium white. That makes it very thick and creamy now, look, doesn't it? And if you want to just thin it slightly, ever so slightly, I'm looking for a creamy consistency. Just tiny touches of thinners every now and then help. And that's a very bright blue up there now, isn't it? So plenty of white. Now I may have put too much blue into this at the beginning, but it's okay. We'll just keep adding white to it. And I'm going to take a tiny touch of magenta. The tiniest touch is all you need. So it's just warming the blue ever so slightly, okay? I'm going to go up and have a look. Okay, that's fine. I'll go with that. Now this oil is making such a difference. I'm only going to go to about there. Same on this side. Just to about there, okay? What I'm going to do now is just give my brush a quick clean, get some of that off. it's going to start getting lighter and warmer, more magenta as it comes down. So I've added a bit more magenta into that. You see how that's a softer shade? You could even go a bit more. Now we can also use cadmium red. It's up to ourselves with this. We can kind of add whatever colours we like into this. And you know what? I think I'll go with a hint of cadmium red. Just clean my brush very quickly. Take some white. Cadmium red. So a very light kind of a pink. But there's a little bit of blue in there as well. Like, you know what I mean? There's a tiny, tiny bit of blue in there as well. So it's going to start getting more and more pink as it comes down. More and more red. A little bit more cadmium red in there. Now I'm going to go with white, cadmium red, and a tiny touch of Naples yellow. That's giving us this lovely warm peachy shade, isn't it? And you can see how thin this is. There's a lot of thinners in this. I'm just going to dry my brush really well. I'm going to go back over that with the same mix, cadmium red and a little Naples yellow. Just to get that colour a little bit thicker. Now let's soften this all the way along, all the way up, okay? Left to right, left to right. I want to soften all these colours together, make a nice, simple graduation of colour coming down the sky. From a cool into a warm. Okay? Now, I'm going to give my brush a really good clean. I need to get rid of all the blue that's on this brush. I'm going to turn my tissue over. Again, into our turpentine and onto the tissue. That's the way to do it. Into the turpentine and back onto your tissue. Just keep doing that. Don't swish it around in your turpentine because you'll just ruin your turpentine completely. I'm going to start putting, I need to put a kind of a light pink across somewhere there. I'm going to take some magenta, plenty of white, and a touch of Naples yellow. I'm going to put that very light shade just across there. Now, you need to be patient when painting with oils because sometimes when you put the colours on, you don't see them mixing, you don't see the colour kind of mixes in. But just be patient, all right? I'm going to come down here and start these. You see that warm colour we have at the very end? I'm going to go with some cadmium red, little burnt sienna, and you can see now the tiny amounts of colour I'm mixing up here. A little touch of magenta. So it's a sort of a pinky brown shade. You can see it there yourself. It's like a pinky brown. I'm just going to pop that on right the way across. Soften it up until it just disappears, okay? Like that. Then I'm going to start mixing a nice plum. So let's take a little phthalo blue. I'm going to go magenta. But this is going to be a warm, kind of a reddy plum. So I've phthalo blue, little magenta, and a tiny touch of cadmium red as well. That'll give us a kind of a reddy plum. Yeah, a kind of a nice reddy sort of a plum, almost like a grapey colour. I'm going to just soften a little touch of that in on both sides as well. Kind of coming down into the centre. You see the way I'm making it disappear into the centre? So I'm not going all the way across in a straight line. It's disappearing down into the centre. Now, with the same mix, just a little bit stronger, I'm going to paint those clouds down at the bottom. I might as well get those in first. And they're very pinkyish, aren't they? Let's have a look. One very important part of this is, when you're painting clouds like this, you must remember that as they get closer to the horizon, they get very flat, okay? They go straight, almost straight across. So as you go down to the bottom of the cloud, I'm just going to make it straight like this, look. Straight, like that. And maybe just pop one or two bits up over it like that, okay? And then, now we're going to add a bit more cadmium red into this. I want this to be nice and warm. I'm going to come over to this side and start putting this one in. I think that's the right colour. And just looking very loosely at the reference photograph, allow that to disappear into the center. So they're all disappearing into the center of the sky. And down at the bottom you can see it's kind of pretty much flat across. Like so. I am now going to start adding a bit more colour into these. A bit of magenta, a bit of cadmium red. Down towards the bottom. I'm just going to kind of flick it along. I'm just sort of adding hints of slightly warmer colours here and there. Okay. I'm also going to take some burnt sienna with cadmium red. That gives you this sort of browny red, rich browny red colour as well. Pop a little bit on each side, just a little on each side is all you need. Bring a little bit out here and there up on top. You see? Just very, very loose. With that same colour, that reddy brown colour, I'm going to go up here and pop those in. It's a very strange kind of a cloud up here. It's just like bits of cloud popping up. 1, 2 there. You can always as well add your own bits of cloud in. Absolutely. Don't be afraid to do that as well. You can add your own bits in. Picking up little bits of blue along the way, look. And all the while I'm doing this, I'm just thinking simple. I'm thinking simple. Simple, simple, not too complicated. Let's get a bit of deep, kind of a bluey purple here now. I'm just going to add a little hint of that colour into this as well, just to cool it down slightly, add a bit of coolness into the cloud, you know what I mean? That's all. Just kind of swishing it around, you see? Swish it around just a little bit, create a little bit of shadow in some of them. A little bit here and there. And really, that's all we need to do. I'm not going to be too fussy with the sky in this. I'm going to take a soft blender brush and very gently just dab over those, soften them away. That just pushes them off into the distance that little bit, doesn't it look? You see? Just get rid of the brush strokes. That gives it a lovely soft effect, doesn't it? That's nice. Now this big cloud up on top, and this is going to be an interesting one for you. So what I'm going to do is mix a nice warm, similar to that, okay? Let's get some cadmium red, burnt sienna, and I need to make this nice and thick now. I don't want a very thin colour. I'm going to take a little bit of magenta. Let me just try. That's a little bit too warm, isn't it? So let's take some magenta and a tiny touch of phthalo blue. That will tone it down ever so slightly. Now this mix is a bit too wet. I'm going to dry this brush really well on some tissue just to get the moisture out of it. It's a little bit still. All the moisture gets trapped down here in the brush, and when you lean down it comes out. So you just want to make sure you get that brush. It's nice, a nice dry brush. Let's start again. Let's go with magenta, a bit of phthalo, a little bit of that burnt umber or burnt sienna type colour, and let's just go now and pop a little bit of that in there. I will thicken all this up as I go, okay? Now it comes over there like that. It curves and comes down, doesn't it? And we have little bits of that colour kind of darting around here and there. I'm now going to go to that warm sienna and magenta colour. I'm just going to add a little bit of hint of that around down here. So wherever the sun is, it's going to come up, and the warmer colours are going to hit the bottom of the clouds here. So the bottom of the clouds need to be that warmer shade. And I know this is different here, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the same. We can come down as far as we like, wherever we see fit. It's our painting, we can do what we like, can't we? And let's come across here and just kind of rough up the edges a little bit, look. That's all. Just rough them up. Now that's fine. I'm then going to start introducing purpley tones into this. So I'm going to get some magenta, a little touch of phthalo, but again, I'm going much on the red side. It's more pinky than purpley. Do you understand what I mean? So there, it's kind of a pinky shade. And then, as it comes up, I'm going to just start making it a little bit more blue. Especially up on the top where it's in shade from the sun. So the sun is not hitting it up there. So it's going to be kind of cooler up on that side. Little touch of dark along here and there. And there we are. Now, that's not bad. It's not bad. But I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm going to get a small flat brush and just start adding some lights down around the bottom. I'm taking some white, some Naples yellow, and just down around the bottom. I'm going to pop a little bit of that light shade in, where it's kind of catching down under some of those clouds. It's just a hint of light, that's all. And I'm going to kind of soften it down into the blue underneath. Look, very gently. You can see how that kind of works now. I'm going to try that again. Let me just clean that brush. And I'm going to go with pink this time. Magenta and white. And I'm going to go up here and just add some of that colour. I'm just kind of dabbing it around here and there to suggest very sort of wispy cloud up here. Just a little. And I'm also going to add a little bit of white just up over that cloud to suggest the sunlight just kind of coming up and hitting the top of the cloud. You can see what I mean there by that. Those small little things I find in a sunset, they make all the difference. Now there, you can see that now a bit better. You see how that's, you can imagine the sun's coming up behind and just hitting that cloud and illuminating certain parts. You can kind of see it now, can't you? A little bit down here, a little bit there, maybe a little bit around here. I'm just being very careful now not to overdo this. I don't want to overdo this. I'm going to soften this together just very gently, look. And it's amazing when you have this blender brush, these types of brushes, you can create direction in the clouds as well at the same time. It's very handy. So you can manipulate the paint and move it in certain ways. You see what I mean? It's very, very handy. All we have left to do is the sun on this. A nice bright yellow sun. Come on, let's take some cadmium yellow. Naples yellow, we'll tone that down. And lots of white. I don't want this too yellowy. It's not luminous on the photograph. It looks like just a very soft yellow. So plenty of white, Naples yellow, touch of cadmium. Let's go down to the middle and let's just pop that sun in. Create a nice little circle. Like so. As it comes around to the outside edge, I'm going to start adding a little cadmium yellow into the mix. Now we need to kind of graduate this out. Okay? We need to let that disappear as it comes out. So I'm just going to go around very gently and soften that all the way out, even up overhead as well, adding a little touch of yellow. Drag it across, allow that to filter away to the sides. Okay? Now let's get soft blender brush and pull that left and right. Just soften it back out. So we can keep going at this sun now until we get it right. but we have the surrounding light done. Let's take some cadmium yellow, some Naples yellow. Let's really give that a punch right in the centre, look. There we go. There we go. That's a nice punch now, isn't it? Let's soften it again. Back out. I'm just bringing my brush around in circular motions, look, circular movements. Like that. And again, we'll go back to our soft brush. I'm very gently, barely touching it. Bring it out. You can see how that just softens away, doesn't it? Now I'm going slightly richer. It's cadmium yellow and a touch of burnt sienna. I want to really go nice and warm on the outside of this. I can see it's very warm and I want to make it warm. So I'm just going to fill this with cadmium yellow, little burnt sienna. Then I'm going to soften that back again, look. Dragging it out, feathering it out. And lastly, we just clean my brush now, get that colour off your brush. Let's get some pure white, maybe a touch of cadmium yellow in there as well. And go right to the centre. And just put a dab of that in the centre and dab, 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 dab around. Let that almost like disappear as it comes out. So now we have that beautiful bright spot in the centre with a nice warm surround. I'm just going to keep dabbing until I get that just right. So there we go. And then in the very centre, let's pop a touch of white. Titanium white, just on its own, just in the centre. And that gives you that nice glow in the centre, doesn't it? That's our sky finished. That's pretty nice, I think. And it wasn't too overcomplicated. Let's move down and do the water. I'll do some of the water and I'm going to call this part 1 finished then, okay? Let me just get some fresh, clean tissue. Always replace your tissue every now and then. Makes a big difference. Keeps your colours nice and fresh. I'm going to go back to my large brush now. And I'm going to start mixing a colour for this. Now we could also, as we're here, add a touch of linseed oil just across this very loosely. Not too much, just a little. Tiny, tiny bit. I'm going to start with a nice deep plum again, okay? I need to get some magenta on my palette. I didn't want to go very rich with these colours up here on purpose. I could have went very rich, but I want to make this slightly more natural. I don't want to go very, very rich and deep with all these colours. So that's why I didn't overpower the painting. I didn't go too far with rich colours. I want to keep this subtle. Don't want to go overboard with this. Now I'm mixing a very deep purple, as you can see there, taking a touch of burnt umber into that. That will give us a nice warm shade. Let's have a look. I think I'll start with that and I'll use that as my base coat. Again, I'm going to stop towards the centre because the centre has the sun, doesn't it? So it's going to be slightly, a little bit more cadmium red in that. It's going to be warmer as it gets to the centre of the painting. So I'll stop around there. Let's just bring that all the way down. So you'll notice the colours I'm putting on are very thin, aren't they? These kind of, they're sort of base colours. They're very thin mixes, these shades. So that's why I like to paint like this, because you can build up your layers. If I put very thick paint on here too soon, it's going to be very, very difficult to move paint and change colours. So that's why I'm very careful. Let's start going into some blue. Phaylo blue, a little bit of white, touch of cadmium red, maybe a touch of magenta as well. It gets slightly more blue here and there as it comes forward. A little bit there, a little bit along there. You can see now I'm changing colours slightly. I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going right in now to the centre. And for that, I'm going to start with a light pink. So titanium white, a little bit of magenta, tiny touch of cadmium red. I'm going to start in there with a light pink. Okay, see that kind of a shade? And then soften that out to the right, and then soften it out to the left. I'll rub my brush to keep it clean, slightly clean. Take a little touch more cadmium red. And you see then, I'm just going to soften that lighter shade, flicking it left and right. So that's the start of our lighter shading by the sun, if you get me. The next thing I'm going to do is switch to a slightly smaller brush. I'm going to take some Naples yellow, lots of white, and a touch of magenta. So now I'm going to start putting maybe a touch of cadmium red as well. Let's just kind of warm it slightly. Very rich colour, that cadmium red. I'm going to start warming the centre with this pinky shade before I put my yellows in. Because we don't want to put yellowy colours over blues, do we? So I'm going to start with this. Just flicking it left and right, like that. Okay. Then we'll clean that. Let's get more titanium white. And let's start, just put a hint of a bright yellow under that sun there, look. It's just a hit and miss, all right? Hit and miss. Little hit and miss here and there. Avoiding any blue. So at least now we have a hint of a yellow in there. Now these colours may look very saturated, very soft on camera. It's always to do with, when I paint yellows on canvases, the camera picks up the yellows slightly different. Don't know why. It's something to do with the white balance on the camera. I must kind of mess around with it and check it out, see if I can get it going, but that's what it is. But these colours are actually slightly more vivid. I'm taking a new flat brush. I'm first going to put in this dark wave here. We have another one behind us up here. We could put that in too. Let's try that. Take some magenta and some blue. Give us a nice purple, touch of black. That gives us a nice deep purpley blacky shade, okay? Let's go up and put one here, look. Just going to drag it across, like so. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So imagine this is coming straight across, then it starts again here. You could make it go up and down and whatever, it's just a rough line. Soften it down at the bottom. Soften it down into the water. As it comes over by the sun, you can see it gets much warmer, doesn't it? So, cadmium red, perhaps a touch of black, maybe a touch of burnt umber. So we have a much warmer dark cutting across in front of the sun. So the warm colours from the sun are making this warm, and then soften it back into that colour on either side. I'm going to pick up some black and I'm just going to deepen this with a little bit of black, just a touch of blue there as well. I just want to make it a little more pronounced. That's all. Slightly more pronounced. Softening those here and there. Now another thing I'm going to do is just put some texture into the water. So what I mean by that is a couple of darks. I'm going to pop a couple of darks in here and there. So especially up around there, I'm just going to simply, with the tip of my brush, flick some darks. I took a bit of magenta, tiny bit of blue, and I'm just going to flick a few of those here and there. Create just the impression of some waves off in the distance breaking. You see? Just to break it up, we need to break it up a little bit. Some burnt umber, cadmium red, in where the sun is, just by that yellow. Make sure there are warm colours in there. And then soften them backwards, left and right. You can put a few in here as well. So you can see now how it's coming together slowly. Let's put this big wave, this blacky dark wave in here. I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm going to take some blue, magenta, and little black. This is very, very dark now. This is very blacky. I'm going to start with this colour first. I'm going to kind of come up like this. Create a suggestion of a wave. It comes off to the side like that, doesn't it? Let's pick up some cadmium red. Pop a little bit of cadmium red in there. Because when the cadmium red mixes with this blacky colour, it's going to go a nice browny sort of shade. So you're getting warm colours. I'm going to go across like this and then ease it off like so. Then what I'm going to do is take some blue, little touch of white, so we have a slightly rich blue. I'm going to just pop a little bit of that in here and there, just to bring that off, down into a lighter shade. So we can, you see, we're adding alternate colours every now and then. So for instance, I'm taking some magenta with a little white now, maybe a touch of cadmium red as well. So I'm going to add little bits of pink in through all of this as well. And it's all just about adding these colours as they're wet and just softening lights and darks through all of these as you go. Isn't that nice? That's looking quite nice now, that one. One thing I'm going to do to just make this stand out a little, up along the top edge, I'm going to put a very thin line of a bright colour. I'm going to go a little bit of white, tiny touch of Naples yellow. The sunlight is hitting along the top of this, so I'm just going to pop very randomly, look, just with the tip of my brush. Tiniest little bit of light catching along the top of that. And it can be slightly thicker in places, it can be thinner in places, it's up to you. You can hit and miss, whatever, it's completely up to you. Then we get to this side, it's a very rich light blue, isn't it? Let's go right into some titanium white, phthalo blue. Tiny touch of magenta. There we go. I'm going to bring that colour in down here like that. Let's get a bit richer now with this, come on. Plenty of blue, plenty of magenta. Very rich. There we go, that's what I want. That's what I want. That nice rich colour. There's water breaking over on this side, isn't there? It's just like a mush of water. So we can go with darker shades. Take some blue, a little bit of black. We can go darker shades like this. Okay. Then as it comes down, we can add a bit of black into it down here. Just along the bottom line. I'm going to soften it up here and there. Then I'll clean my brush again and start putting in a few highlights. Phaylo blue, some white. And that's a nice highlight colour. Look, just let that flick off. Very random. You could also use a palette knife now for a lot of this if you liked, just to create lots of texture. Understand? You could by all means. And I may even try a palette knife in a moment, because I think that will make such a difference. I'm going to really darken down around here with some deep purple, just to give a little bit of shadow down towards the base of this very rough kind of wave crashing. Just a little bit of shadow. Now already looks quite nice, doesn't it? I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a little bit of that to this side as well. Again, scrape your brush around, and let's go into some lighter shades then. Bit of white, bit of phthalo blue. Add some nice highlights. And this technique I'm doing is really just sort of scraping and dabbing, that kind of thing. Okay? I'm kind of just swishing the brush around in different directions, just trying to create a very rough, kind of loose effect for the water. Understand? Now we need some magenta just in along here. Magenta with white just in the center. Get that nice light section in the center. I'm just kind of really having a bit of fun with all of this. That's what I'm doing. Just having a bit of fun. I'm going to add a hint of very dark colour just in here. Bring that down. Just the tiniest hint. And then again, we have a little bit of a dark line at the base of this, don't we? There's a little bit of a line coming across. Soften it up just very roughly with the corner of your brush. But that gives us a dark finish, you see? That's all it is. My friends, I'm going to call this part one finished. I think we've come very far. We still have a bit to do, you know. We could warm along there slightly. I'm going to warm along the top actually. I'm going to take some Sienna with some magenta. Tiniest touch of black perhaps. I'm just going to put a slightly dark line lift off and then soften that just down very gently here and there. I think it needs a little bit of that just up on top, just as a little bit of contrast, if you know what I mean. And also, I am going to just darken with some blue and some black, just some of these, just to make them stand out that little bit more, okay? Just a little. I think that's even enough. And then I can just add a little touch of that here and there, just to kind of bring it down into the painting. We don't want it just floating in midair, do we? So a tiny bit here and there. And then we can also add the tiniest touch of light on top of those as well, with some white. Let me just clean my brush now, make sure it's nice and white and a touch of blue, perhaps. Just here and there. Little tiny dab. See, just suggesting a little bit of highlight up there. So let's call this part 1 finished, my friends. In part 2 we'll walk away with all of this, we'll come down to the sand, and we can tidy up 1 or 2 little bits as well. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed part 1 so far. That looks quite nice, I think. I'll just stick to this strap here in the way. That's coming out quite nice. We'll do a bit more on this, and we'll have a lovely painting at the end, hopefully. Part 2, painting the sand and getting nice sand colours. I'll be right back. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere.